Well, it's been a few weeks since I've done one, and no big surprise at this point. It's about the most exciting thing for me to think about and look forward to when it comes to football, and that is the 2024 NFL Draft. Yeah, so let's do this. An updated mock draft. It's a one-round edition. Let's have at it, right? And what you will notice here is a couple of notable things at the top. And you probably won't be surprised at this moment, at least, that Caleb Williams and Drake Maye are the top two picks, even though I'm not at this point confident that either one of them is QB1 or QB2 in this draft. You'll find out where I stand on that in the weeks and months ahead. However, just assuming that relatively holds to form for the time being, when you look at Arizona at pick 1, and based off of the draft order after week 9, they would have had the number 1 overall pick. They have this fucked up situation because they've got Kyler Murray, who hasn't played yet this year, coming off of the ACL injury, but locked into this albatross of a contract that they're going to have to pay him a shit ton of money. Even if they try to get rid of him for 2024, his dead cap number is atrocious. So, there is the thought for the Cardinals of, hey, you know what? If you get that top pick, you got to reset the clock, right? That said, when I think about the Cardinals, this is a team that needs a lot of talent and a lot of help. They're being coached relatively well. They're pesky, but they're just not very good, right? So for them in that position, if they found a team that falls in love with a Caleb Williams or a Drake Maye, whatever, and wants to peel up to 1, the Cardinals would do very well for themselves to make a Bears-like trade from this year's draft. And I look at Atlanta, and I think that this type of trade makes sense for both teams. You would say, man, that's a lot for Atlanta to give up. You've got to give up pick 11, pick 46, pick 112, a 2025 first and third, a 2026 first rounder. I do, right? But that is a team that's screaming out for competent to high-level quarterback play. You'd be dropping him into a situation with young weapons like Kyle Pitts and Drake London and DeJean Robinson, and hopefully a head coach that isn't the bumbling dumb dick Arthur Smith. Atlanta's the type of team that should be looking to make that type of big move up the board. And if you're a Caleb Williams, admittedly, you'd have to be pretty excited at the possibility of being able to play with those type of weapons in the Atlanta offense. Meanwhile, like I said, for the Cardinals, it strengthens their position for the next couple of drafts. If they decide long-term they want to move on from Kyler Murray, it gives them options. They have flexibility. The other team, like we talk about the Bears and how much they need a quarterback, and all of that is true. I took a different approach to this one because as I was thinking about it, right, it's everybody would say, if they're picking first or second, they got to take a quarterback. And I directionally generally agree with that. However, as I go through this, this is a draft with some real marquee elite talent at the top. I can absolutely make the argument that the Bears do not have to take a quarterback with either of those top 2 first-round picks. Now, this is where the Montez Sweat deal could be even more ridiculous because it makes it harder for them, let's say, to move up from the 30s, the early part of round 2, into the bottom half of round 1 to go get a quarterback. But it's kind of what I've got them doing here, right? I've got them trading down with the Giants from 2 to 4. The Giants have to get a quarterback out of this draft. Dead cap be damned, doesn't matter. Danny Dimes is not the answer. They cannot proceed with this. They're going to sabotage a good head coach in Brian Daboll. You cannot do that. They've got to go up and get somebody like a Drake Maye. Now, is it possible they would trade up from 4 to 1 to make sure that they got Caleb, want to put him in that New York market? Perhaps, right? But I think Drake Maye might fit a little bit better what Daboll wants. So they have to do it. And for the Giants to give up pick 4, a second rounder this year in 2024, and a first rounder in 2025, it's absolutely worth it. So for the Bears at pick 3 and 4, Marvin Harrison Jr., that's a slam dunk pick right now. You're thinking he's a Fitzgerald type in terms of impact and potential, a Megatron type in terms of impact and potential. you have to take him and you say you've got him, DJ Moore, like whatever quarterback you're putting in the mix is going to be in a pretty good spot. And then pick 4, I know some Bears fans are going to sit there and say, hey, we really like Braxton Jones and his potential. Braxton Jones is solid, right? Like an average NFL starter. I don't know if his upside's much more than that. Maybe a Charles Leno type of guy. But somebody like a Fashanu feels like he could be special. And if he could be special, you have to take him in that spot, in my opinion, to be able to put whatever young quarterback you'd have in 2024 and beyond behind an offensive line that has bookend tackles, young tackles locked up for years in Olu Fashanu and Darnell Wright, talking about a receiving group that has DJ Moore and freaking Marvin Harrison Jr., Cole Kmet at tight end, and arguably the best running back room in the league. Like, it's a hell of a spot to put a guy in. And the Bears need to upgrade their offense. This is not a, argument. They need to get better, period, wherever that can come from. And what I've got them doing is trading back up because they get the Giants' second-round pick, which would be very high in this scenario, peeling back up into round 1 to go get their quarterback, and in this case it's J.J. McCarthy, which would be the ultimate cockblock move, right? Because you would assume Minnesota would be potentially targeting a quarterback in round 1, and I've got Penix going 16 to the Jets, which means at 19, right before the Vikings could take one, the Bears leapfrog him and take a J.J. McCarthy. And you're saying, well, J.J. McCarthy? I wonder if he would even be available at this point in the draft right now. Time will tell, right? I did not have Shedeur Sanders in my first round, if anybody wonders, because I'm not 100% convinced he's going to declare, although I think generally that he should. I've only got 4 quarterbacks going in round 1 right now, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. In terms of a pure pocket passer, I don't know if there's a better quarterback in this draft than Michael Penix Jr. The problem is he'll be 24 as a rookie. He's left-handed, which some teams have some concerns about, certainly. Also, he's got a pretty extensive injury history. So he's a bit older as a prospect, injury history, left-handed quarterback. He's Tua with more arm strength. If you were talking about just in terms of pure pocket passer, I would probably take him over Caleb Williams and Drake Maye, but there's more to it, right? But a team like the Jets, even if Rodgers came back in 2024, you could sit on Penix for a year, and then 2025, you could roll him out there. It allows you to transition away from any thoughts of Zach Wilson. It's a win-win for everybody involved. Other than that, things that really stood out to me, the first 7 picks in this mock draft were all offensive players, which to me, honestly, kind of feels right. The edge rush depth in this draft class appears to be really good, as does the wide receiver class. I think specifically the wide receiver class is really talented at the top. You got a number of these guys, even when you get past Marvin Harrison Jr., Keon, Coleman, Odunze from Washington, Egbuka from Ohio State. I could go on and on, right? So it looks like it's going to be a pretty loaded at the top wide receiver class, pretty loaded at the top edge rusher class. So a team like the Bears that could be in a spot for a Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe somebody else does fall in love with him and is willing to give you a lot to move up for him. You might not feel so bad about passing on him because there could be some other guys in this class that could play at a really, really high level as well. So those are some of the things that stood out to me. I'm wondering what y'all think of my mock draft. If you don't like it, then fuck you. Yes, this had a very heavy, by the way, Bears football focus. What the hell did you expect it was going to have?